font for my.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there, Billy. Top of the morning to YouTube. It's your buttery voiced host, El Heftismo, and we are coming at you live today. And I'm so excited to have with me one of my favorite actors, Mr. Billy Garberina. Thank you for joining us, my friend. Yes, there's not enough applause. I don't have enough people in my room. That's the whole thing. So, you deserve more than when I'm going. So we got JJ in the chat. I know Pam's lurking around somewhere, so she'll probably be in there. But I would love you. Do you want to just introduce yourself more than I did and kind of tell us what you're all about there, sir?
Yeah, sure. So Billy Garberina, filmmaker, producer, director, actor, writer. I've been kicking around independent cinema since before 2002. I've made dozens of low budget movies of varying budgets and varying quality with varying results. We talk about any of that. Somewhere along the line, I pivoted to social work, and so now I'm a licensed clinical social worker in the state of New Mexico. Awesome. And I also happen to be a licensed master social worker in the state of New York. Father of two, running my own business, and actually, you've caught me at an interesting time in my life where I'm actually working to get back into making movies. So,
that's amazing. Yeah. And congratulations, 2 kids. That's awesome.
They are my world.
That's amazing. Yeah, you've been in a lot of stuff, man. I apologize. I'm not going to be able to answer all the comments because I'm kind of a one-man show today. I don't have JJ here with me to do stuff.
I do see Steam, Fire, and Ice, a glutton for punishment, being a social worker.
Yeah,
it's more like masochist. Yeah, I mean, glutton for punishment's a little light. I'm more like a really sick, depraved masochist.
It's
random nonsense. Hambone reasonably sure this is going to be one hell of something.
Hambone got the 9-foot excuse line.
Hambone got the 9-foot excuse and something else.
That's right. Hambone relatively sure Hambone gonna live forever. And I love that you said that. Would you mind giving us one of those?
At the very least, Hambone reasonably sure Hambone will make it through this podcast.
Well, that makes one of us. Thank you for that. It's so great to have you here. Social work is amazing. That's really cool. I'm sure you've met an interesting group of people. I don't know exactly where you do or what you do with it, but that's hard work, man. So congrats on that.
Thank you. My primary current focus is working with adults struggling with substance abuse.
Oh, right on.
I actually 6.5 years ago, my business is now 6.5 years old. 6.5 years ago, I started in Valencia County, New Mexico, with my current business, Full Circle Recovery, and now I employ 20 people in 4 counties in central New Mexico.
That's fantastic! Congratulations. Yep. So Pam, I believe, is right around New Mexico. I know the Steam, Fire, and Ice is in Tennessee. Random Nonsense is with me in New York. Rob's in New York with me. But so JJ, tell Billy where you got kin in New Mexico, because we were talking about that before the show, and I'm a bad friend. I don't remember.
What part of the fine state of New Mexico?
Oh, yeah, Pam's in Oklahoma. Okay.
Oh, cool.
I lived in First C.
I think he's saying Tier C. Tier C is 2 hours south of Albuquerque along I-25. It's an hour south of Socorro, and it's a fine city. I've actually had some adult probation parole officers ask me if I can open up a branch of what I do there. So,
that's awesome.
Yeah, Tier C is not unknown to me.
That's amazing. See, look at that, connections already. Connections. I got the jazz fingers.
You thought this was going to be all about cinema, and already it's been hijacked by social work. And
no, but that's great. I think it's a very important and cool thing that you do. No irony here at all. But don't let your folks watch this video, I guess, because that'd probably be a bad influence on them. Um, but it's, I think that's really great. And you by all my accounts are a super guy. So I think that's really cool that you look out for people like that.
I do appreciate the endorsement, Hefty, but like I like to tell people, opinions and results vary wildly. There are more than a few people out there that think I'm a MFer. So,
Well, that's okay. Believe it or not, I am not well liked by everybody either. It's okay. You can't be us as long as we have been without making some enemies. Am I right?
There you go. You gotta break a couple of eggs to make an omelet, right?
Yeah, and that's right. That's the best Joker ever, in my opinion. But so going back to cinema a little bit, we were talking a little bit about Hambone, and I would love to hear how you fell in with Seaver and got, because I don't think that was your first role in a Seaver movie.
Oh no, not at all.
Yeah, and I apologize because I still have yet to catch. Seaver's made a lot of movies. I have yet to see them all. So please forgive my ignorance on a lot of these questions, but I'm doing my damnedest.
I mean, I've been buddies with Chris for over 2 decades, and I haven't seen all of his movies, so it's cool.
Well, that's good to know. That gives me hope for the future.
That's okay. He hasn't seen all of mine either, so we're both terrible friends to one another in that regard.
See, there you go. Bad friends all around. But how did you? What did he? It was just like, Billy, you want to be in this movie, and you were like, hell yeah.
Well, so how do you get Billy Garberina in Albuquerque together with Chris Seaver in Rochester? And the answer is Scott Phillips. So it was 2001 or so, and I was making my first movie, Collecting Rooftops, and somehow along the way, Scott and I got hooked up through the very tiny film scene that was Albuquerque at the time, through a mutual friend, Devin O'Leary, who wrote for the Weekly Alibi, kind of the local free paper, and he was the cinema guru for news in print and on the news in Albuquerque for decades. And Devin himself is a gifted writer, and Devin actually has written several of my movies. But that's a separate story. With Scott, Scott ended up being a small part in Collecting Rooftops. He plays an annoying customer at the movie theater that the movie's about. And through Scott Phillips, he and I started hanging out. And then around 2002, Scott Phillips had written a script for a movie called The Stink of Flesh. And
The Stink of Flesh, I love it.
Yeah, no, it's a really, really, really great zombie movie. And that was the movie that gotta go, guys. Pamela's guys. It's good to see you, Pamela.
Bye, Pam. Thanks, honey, for showing up. Love you.
So Scott had written this ensemble zombie piece, which was actually like a build out of a larger story that he couldn't tell, but it was focused on this one element of it. And then he wrote a script about that. And then I'm in the ensemble there. And Scott and I just become kind of good friends from there for years after. And as I was hanging out at Scott Phillips' house, he is like an inveterate nerd for all time. Like he was kind of like, he's the same age and kind of background as Quentin Tarantino. And,
okay.
And what's the similarities? Like he didn't graduate high school, worked in a video store, had this like crazy love of like 60s and 70s, car movies and pulp, and really had this ambition to kind of go that same route. Quentin Tarantino obviously got there and did that. And Scott's done some really crazy and amazing things himself. But as I'm hanging out with Scott and drinking in all of his posters and all of his magazines and all of these different movies, I come across this weird tiny little advertisement in some sort of weird fan magazine, and I can't remember which kind of it was. Some independent filmmaker thing. It might have been Fangoria. I couldn't tell you, but there was this like little blurb about this big, and there's this thing on it that's a teen ape, and it says teen ape says something or other. What the fuck is a teen ape? And to which Scott said, "Oh, let me show you what a teen ape is." And he broke out some of Chris Seaver's movies, and it was one of his earlier works. And again, this would be limited to whatever he had made by
2001-ish.
By 2004. So whatever it was I saw, but it was the whole old school LBP gang in some kind of a high school setting. And I'm watching it. And at first glance, Chris Seaver's really easy to dismiss because it looks like really low quality shot on video, terrible acting, all this stuff. And so at first I was like, what the fuck is this? But because I'm patient and not quick to dismiss things out of hand on first glance.
Yes.
In a very short amount of time, I was like, there's something going on here with this guy and what he's doing. There's this kind of like weird deliberacy to the scripting and the acting and the way it's put together. And I became very fascinated.
It's almost Shakespearean.
That's what I say.
Ways,
Listen,
right? Yeah.
I don't know if you've heard me say that before, but in multiple interviews behind the scenes talking about Chris Seaver, one of the things that I love about Chris, he's a brilliant dude. He's a hilarious dude. He is. But one of the things that I always try to tell people is like, Chris Seaver has what I call a nigh Shakespearean command of the English language. Just the way he thinks and the way he puts words together is just like amazing.
Yes.
And then he applies it to these like really
wacky situations and characters.
Roughly hewn, like his movies were in the old school. His movies were shot in like 2 to 4 days on a budget of like $500 or $600 at the outside. And so somehow between me being interested in Chris and Scott and Chris had found each other, I don't know, however they found each other, but they were friends. And they would call each other on the phone and talk and trade movies and stuff like that. And so as I watched more and more movies, I was like, I want to be a part of that. I'm interested in that. And so at some point, Chris and Scott collaborated on something called Scream Science Bastard Scream, which was a short movie sequel to another short movie sequel that Scott had made called Science Bastard. Science Bastard starred our buddy Devin, the writer, and so he was the Science Bastard. The main bad guy of the first movie was this creature called Skunk Ape, who was played by Mike D'Elia, who's a local comic shop toy store owner, and his then wife Stephanie, who ended up being the naked zombie chick in Stink of Flesh. Devin also ended up being a soldier character in Stink of Flesh.
I've got to find that movie because I love. You had me at the title. It's like Blood Fart Lake.
When you watch Stink of Flesh, like I'll give you a little context. We shot it in 10 or 12 days in New Mexico in the summer of 2003 on a budget of $3,000.
Wow!
And I think Scott put like $3,000 into post, and I think you'll be shocked at what you get out of that movie for that particular group of people. So Scott's then at some point making a sequel called Scream Science Bastard Scream, where I play the main bad guy, the Notorious Woodsman, who's like this weird, sexually ambiguous porn star from the 70s with like a weird mustache and strange, questionable fashion. And Chris Seaver was one of the contributing writers. And I said, hot damn, this is my opportunity to show Chris Seaver what I got.
Because hell yeah.
I'm having an opportunity here in New Mexico, collaborating with Scott on something that Chris had written. And I was like, oh, I've watched this guy's movies. I like this guy's movies. I am going to give my best shot at a Chris Seaver style in this bit. It was a total porn stash. It was like I had this big old porn stash, and I had like little cutoff jeans and the big tube socks with the stripes, the double stripes.
Yeah, buddy.
It was a pretty awesome costume. So there was one line in particular in that really caught Chris's eye and had him kind of fall in love with me, which was, my God, it sounds like the jungle came to life, and it's something like that. And so Chris loved that, and I was into Chris, and I joked around like, you want to be careful getting me around the LVP ladies, and so like. So at first he wasn't sure if I was going to be a creep.
Yeah, right. You're like, oh wait, hold on,
because I'd made that joke. But like, he brought me out for Wet Heat.
Yes,
which is kind of like this weird, like parody of Escape from New York, and Teen Ape plays Snake Plissken with like Teen Ape with an eye patch, and I play the main bad guy, which is a character named La Femme La Douche, which is kind of like this weird, like Rocky Horror Frankenfurter looking character. And I'm there. I am doing my first, and they didn't shoot that in Rochester. We went back to Wellsville, or near there, and we're shooting in and around that area for a few days, shooting Wet Heat. And Chris loved my work. I love working with Chris. The gang was fascinating, and And what's funny is my expectations of going into a Chris Seaver movie were really wild departure from the reality of it going in, because
so I've heard. Yeah, so I've heard.
Well, because I've, I make movies and I've made movies and I've been on sets. And so when I heard this guy was making movies in like 2 to 4 days, I thought, how the fuck is he doing this? Like, okay, like it's all roughly hewn, but I was like expecting go now. So he's like throwing the camera across the set like a football. And so he's like, all right, shoot. And like, I imagine it's going to be like this frenetic chaos, crazy mess for like, and I was just going to be like I was going to be in war for 2 or 4 days because of my experiences in filmmaking and condensing that into such a small package. But in fact, it was quite the opposite. It was like really chill. And like Chris has just got this like really simple style. And if you're not used to the style as an actor, it's like a little unsettling at first, because he's like, "What's the camera in? Okay." And you're lucky if you get 2 takes. You get 1 take, he gets the line, okay, then he shoots the next character, then he shoots the next character, then he shoots the next character, and then it's the scene's done. And you're like, "Oh wait, I didn't really no, we're moving on."
Chris is like, "Yeah, we got it."
Yeah, and then what he would do is he'd take this long chunk of footage and then dice it up into little bits and then cut it together. So he's basically just shooting the movie roughly hewn out of his head as he goes along. There's not multiple angles. There's not multiple takes. And when he does ask for a multiple take, it's if somebody really fucks up badly, or if he wants like, can you say it a little bit more? Something like that.
Is that his direction style? Can you say it a little more?
You're saying you're saying the line a little bit like this, but I need it to be more like Vichy Soir. And say the word. No, literally say Vichy Soir. And then when the actor goes Vichy Soir, he'll like start breaking up laughing.
And that's when you know.
Right. And that's his style. And so weirdly enough, that way of thinking about the movie and that way of thinking about filmmaking has actually informed my own process. And I actually saved another filmmaker's movie by encouraging him to shoot in that style. Because he was taking forever and he's doing all this stuff. It's like, hey man, have you considered how to do Chris Seaver style? It's like, what do you mean? This is how Chris Seaver does it. And he did, and he got through the rest of his movie. And so like in a weird way, in a very direct and not weird way, actually,
Seaver saved the film.
Chris Seaver's style has informed my style, and Chris Seaver's style has helped me save other filmmakers' movies with his techniques. Weirdly enough.
And he would never cop to that either. I've met him a few times, and he's
he doesn't have to. I will.
Yeah, but no, he is one of the nicest, sweetest people on the planet.
He's a really sweet dude. He's a really genuine.
He really is. He is a genuinely good dude.
He really is. With Chris, what you get is what you see is what you get. He's kind of like anti-drama. Like bullshit and drama will happen around him.
Yeah.
But he does his best to just be above it or be outside of it, or just he'll listen, or he'll just get. But he himself, he's just not how he is. He's just
a sweet and loving guy. Yeah,
that's a sweet, loving guy, and he wants to have a good time and do these things he wants to do, and he's just a genuinely good human being. And he and I have become very close friends over the years.
Yeah, and he has the passion and the drive and does it. And one of the
you might say passion.
Good passion. But one of the things that I admire about him is his bringing of friends together. Like, you see an LBP picture, you're guaranteed to see, there's a couple of shoe-ins. You're going to see Josh. For a while there was Jesse that was in his movies. You as well. You know what I mean? You were in several of them. A couple of talkies you were in with him.
I think I've made over a dozen movies with him at this point. Actually.
Well, I'm lowballing you here, But the fact of the matter is that, we recently shot a low budget movie in 4.5 days down in Arkansas back in June.
Congratulations!
Thank you.
Outstanding.
Thank you, sir. And it was one of those situations where if you find, we shot in 4.5 days, and when you see it, I think it's like it was one of those things, like you were saying, like, wow, they really did, and we had no idea what we were doing. And it was like, wow, they really did a lot. Yeah, exactly. It was a cut our teeth movie, but they were like, they did a lot with the time they had. It's pretty good. But anyway, So I absolutely understand that. It was my first time like being involved like that on a movie set. So I kind of get it. And there was a lot of things that one of the things was camaraderie there, and we all got along, and we all kind of like made that thing where we're a family now, and we've been through this together. And we, for the next movies, because there are more planned, like we want to reuse the same group of people. And it's nice to see that Chris has that collective group that he can count on. And granted that some names and faces have changed over the years. But I know there's still ones that he, core group members that he gets together with, and stuff like that, which is really cool. Again, just going back to what a great guy he is. But enough sucking Seaver off for a second. Let's go back to stroking you. So going back to Blood Fart Lake for just a second. So did Chris just hit you up and was like, "Hey man, I got this role"?
To be honest, I mean, I think the movie's like 15 plus years old.
Yeah, it's an older movie, which is wild.
And so, like, if I'm going to be like 1,000% honest with you, I don't even remember how that movie came to be. I can remember elements of it. So, like, for example, we were shooting on location in Canandaigua, one of the Finger Lakes, Canandaigua.
Yeah, I'm familiar with it, which is one of the things I saw too. I was like, this is in upstate New York. I was like, get out of here.
Right. And so I think it was Jesse Ames.
Her grandmother, I believe.
Grandmother, something like that.
Yeah.
And they just gave us the cabin, and suddenly we're there shooting it. So, Chris hands me this script, and like, I'm Jimmy Van Brunt. He says, and you're Hambone. I'm like, okay, well, so Jimmy Van Brunt, made sense. He's the killer, is the big guy in a mask murdering people, and
very flamboyant. And we'll get to that in a second.
And yeah, that was one of his things he wanted. He's like,
I was gonna bring that up in a second, but
so he wanted like this flamboyant. But everything that came out of Jimmy's mouth was very corny. But one of the weird things about the audio is like, I don't know that you can make out most of what Jimmy says.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, you
can. So it's like weird. So you get this, and so, but whatever. So
Bon Jovi blows.
But like Hambone, I'm like, well, what is a Hambone? Like, that's such a distinctive sounding name. And we had previously gotten through Deathbone, and there were other. But there's Bone Jack and Death Bone. And I was like, well, what is a ham bone? What is a ham bone? And I don't know how we came across this character, but what was going on with Hambone in particular is Chris was off somewhere doing something. And I think it might have been Kurt Indovina, but I can't exactly remember. Don't hold me that, but it might have been Kurt Indovina or somebody.
It's on the internet.
Who's holding the camera. And Chris said, just make some shit up. And like, I just need an opening. And so I'm sitting there taking like some of the words that he had written and this name and this, so there's this name and what he had written and this kind of, so it's like kind of partially scripted by Chris, partially improvised and partially just made up on the fly. And so it ended up being this like weird pseudo Cajun, weird boatman accent.
And he was so full of self-confidence. That's what I loved. And he refers to himself in the third person.
Right. And so like, I was just kind of riffing on that and like making weird. So, and the whole idea is Hambone is at the lake and he's inviting the kids up and, hey, we're going to have a good time. And and I was in the spirit of an opening of a horror movie, cold opening of a horror movie. It's like, yeah, everything's going to be great. And we're going to have a good time. And this is all going to go perfectly, and let the good times roll. And like, it quickly goes south because Hambone, in fact, appears to not live forever.
Well, he doesn't. He's killed off screen. We
don't quite see.
You don't know. Now, who played Jimmy Van Brunt in that scene? Do you recall?
I think that was Kurt Indovina. So by the time I got that, like, and this might be just my Hambone love you and Hambone love your friends. Hambone love you and Hambone love your friends too.
Hell yeah.
So I think like we put him in the Jimmy Van Brunt, and then we got a third member. It might have been Jesse Ames to hold the camera.
Yeah.
And then we had the opening of Terror at Blood Fart Lake.
That's my favorite cold opening to any movie ever, because it just, even the song when you're walking out on the dock, like the musical choices in that movie were amazing. My youngest brother Matt is a huge ska fan, and I recognized a song or two that was playing like in the beginning because of him. But you get that like suck it bitches, gargling at homies, and it's just like that swagger walk he's got when he's going on the dock. He just exudes self-confidence, and he's like, he just seems like he can be boater guy or just like Joe every dude, but he's got a cabin, you know what I mean, on a lake in upstate New York. And there's a lot of questions, but I loved every choice that was made on that. And going back to Jimmy for a second, one of my questions was going to be that I've been waiting to ask you was his very over the top, very again flamboyant speech. Was that a Chris thing? Was that a you thing? Because and also I've heard that improvisation is not really a thing in a lot of Seaver movies. So that's really cool that Hambone got to improvise a little bit.
Well, I think Hambone got to improvise. Hambone got to improvise because Chris wasn't there and asked me to just make some shit up.
Right, but again, that's one of those rare cases.
And like I've got like a one of my things in my background is I used to do like long form improv with a really talented group of people when I was like in my early 20s, and we had like it was based on like Chicago style improv, and we would create an entire one act play.
That's awesome.
Just based on a couple of rules we call it the form, a couple rules in the form and a suggestion from the audience, and we create a whole thing. So like me just jumping into some shit and handling some shit
that was easy for you.
This old hat to me. So that was cool. So what's weird about Chris is something that almost happened with Scott Phillips, which is like directors that I work with that are friends of mine. They clue into some of my weird idiosyncrasies as a person. And so, Chris has this idea of me that I'm always making these terrible puns that make no sense.
Yeah.
So he wanted me to come up with those on the fly. But when you ask me to, like, if you just have me go do some shit, I'll go do some shit. But if you ask me to do it deliberately, I'll like stutter up.
Sure.
So like these weird lines from Jimmy were partially me coming up with weird Billy puns. So what Chris came up with so that's what I did. And Chris was like, oh, that's it. So that me doing that was what Chris wanted me to do, and so I did the thing that Chris did. But the Jimmy lines were supposed to be like weird Billy puns, but it didn't quite happen that way. And like I also like sing weird random songs, and so like there's a character in another movie that I made with Scott Phillips, and I was originally going to be that character, but then he had me play a different character, and then the actor that was doing that. So anyway, the point is that the Jimmy lines were supposed to be based on bad Billy puns that Billy makes, but it ended up being some weird
hybrid. Yeah.
So it was kind of like Chris wanted the and then Chris wanted the weird puns, and then somehow it worked into whatever it was.
That's amazing. Some of my favorite lines with Jimmy Van Brunt. Like one of my favorite scenes in particular is with Zeebs, the character, and he's like, "Hey, Jimmy Van Brunt, I gotta know, do you like Bon Jovi?" And he's like, "Bon Jovi blow," and that's what kills him. He goes, "Ah!" It was like, what? That's the most ridiculous thing ever. But I loved it. It just worked at a lot of Jimmy's lines, like when he's skipping rope, walking out of a scene. There's so many awesome moments in that movie. And again, if you guys haven't seen it,
it's on Amazon.
It's on YouTube. You can just type in on your search bar on YouTube, Terror at Blood Fart Lake. It'll come right up, which is wild. And great also because, you can see Seaver and Billy and Josh and Jesse and all their glory. And she was one of my favorite characters too. Jessie Ames, she seemed so over the top, and her yakatata thing was kind of wild. Do you have any favorite on-set memories with her or anybody in particular on the movie?
It was a lot of fun. There was this thing that happened, and I don't know if you've ever gotten a chance to see it, but there's this cool Reanimator song, "Move Your Dead Bones, 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 Move Your Dead Bones, Bones, Bones."
No.
It's kind of like this weird Reanimator homage song.
Okay.
It's like the song that was made, and you could probably find it on YouTube. It's called Move Your Dead Bones, or it's like the Reanimator. And so what Chris did was he got the whole cast together to do a behind the scenes thing where we did the characters of.
Oh yeah, that's on the copy of the thing that I have. I believe.
Okay.
The dance thing. Yeah,
that was a lot of like weird, goofy fun.
Yeah,
for us to make a weird music video where we're basically lip syncing and dancing to this goofy thing, and that was a lot of fun. And then I think it got pulled off YouTube for copyright infringement.
Yeah, which because
it was total non-permissive use of the song. So it was a lot of fun to do that. That was definitely a fond memory for me.
Hell yeah! I mean, you guys crushed it. That too was ridiculous, and I love goofy stuff like that, like seeing stuff like that. And, because when I first saw the movie, I was like, this is a guy I want to make a movie with. And I've already reached out to Seaver, and I was like, yo, if you need me or JJ's help, I was like, let me know. Do you plan on returning as Jimmy Van Brunt for the third one?
Well, I don't know how much I'm allowed to talk about.
Right. Okay, that's fair. So I'll amend my question.
That said, I also don't know that I'm not allowed to talk about it. So, and I don't know very much. So what I can tell you is this: there is going to be a third movie is planned.
Yes.
It was going to get shot this fall, but it got pushed back to late spring, summer next year.
Yes.
I am apparently returning as Jimmy Van Brunt, and I'm apparently returning as Hambone.
Oh, fucking! I knew it. Oh, that's awesome. Chris, sorry, bro. I can cut this out of the live if you want. Just reach out at me.
Well, I think the only thing.
I mean, I kind of like the Hambone thing is kind of actually is really cool and a little bit of a surprise. But the Jimmy Van Brunt thing, I'm like, well, you kind of have to have Jimmy Van Brunt in the movie.
You got to have Jimmy Van Brunt. Do you have to have Billy Garberina as Jimmy Van Brunt?
Yes. And that's like fucking Kane Hodder with Jason. Can you have another Jason? Like, no, not really. Can you have another?
One thing that I can tell you is mildly disappointing to me about Blood Fart Lake 3 is I really love the Harbinger character from number 2. Yes. I always like you don't want to go up there. That place has got a death curse on it. They're all going to die a horrible, screaming, bloody death.
Yes.
I wanted that guy to come back, but Chris is like, no, can't have everything in this movie.
Well, that's too bad. But I really hope that ends up being a thing. And even more so, that would be amazing if JJ and I actually got involved on this and I got to like actually shake your hand and give you a hug. I'm a hugger. I give good hugs. So,
well, how close to
you're about 3 hours from us.
No. When you're in Arkansas,
yes,
I was traveling through Arkansas on my way up to Northeast. How close are you to those roads?
I'm nowhere near. I'm in upstate New York.
Why do I keep thinking you're in Arkansas?
Yeah, no, that's because we shot the movie in Arkansas. Yeah, we got flown out.
My point is, I'm planning on being in Rochester around. I'm going to be in Westchester
County
for about a month.
Okay.
And then I'm going to be in Chris, and I got to get from point A to point B. Maybe we can grab some dinner.
I would love that. Yeah, I've got your number. I'll definitely. I would be honored. That would be. Are you kidding me? Yes, sir. That would be something. That's amazing. I got to let that sink in for a second. But so to kind of get off Blood Fart Lake for a second, let's talk about some other roles that you were in that you really liked.
Yeah.
So what's one of your favorite roles you ever got to play?
Oh man. What a lot of people tell me is one of my best I have one that I really liked that people tell me they liked, and I've got one that people tell me that they really liked. So one of my favorites, if not my favorite that I ever played, was a character called Torch Tenney in Richard Griffin's Feeding the Masses. And that was written by Trent Haga.
Oh, okay.
Directed by Richard Griffin. And we shot that, I think, in the fall of 2004 in Pawtucket, Rhode Island.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And I'm kind of like somewhere between the lead or one of like 3 leads in a small ensemble. And it's kind of like this zombie apocalypse. And I'm the camera guy in this news team. And we're escorting, the news girl and a soldier's with us. And that's the kind of the news team consists of the soldier, the camera guy and the girl, and it starts off society's falling apart because of the zombie apocalypse, and politicians are waffling, and we're trying to have like human interest stories going on, but like everything's falling apart. And the government it's increasingly clear that the government is lying about how bad this is, and it's all falling apart very quickly. And we're trying to kind of decide like what we're going to do about this as like, a roving news crew.
Doesn't sound like that far a stretch from reality, to be honest.
Well, there you go. There you go. So like, I think that's a really good performance for me. There's this like really cool monologue about like death and the Hindenburg like in the middle that we did in one take with me, and that's really cool. So I really like that role, and a lot of people tell me that's one of my better roles. And then one that I liked a lot, but people really seem to like is this character named. It was in a movie called The Righteous and the Wicked. We shot it in 2009 in Algodones area. It's between like Algodones and Buttigieg. Somewhere between Algodones and Santa Fe, New Mexico, is the Eves Movie Ranch, where they've shot many famous movies, like Cowboys and Aliens is just one off the top of my head.
Yeah, I was going to say that the name strikes a familiar chord.
And we actually got in there for cheap, and we shot a Western there. And we shot it in like 16 days on a $25,000 budget, and I'm one of the leads in the ensemble. And I play this like just really miserable bastard, bad guy cowboy. And I really chew the scenery on that. People really like that. They're like, you were really good in that role, and a real slimy motherfucker. So I had a lot of fun with that role too. And that was pretty good. So somewhere between Torch and, I can't think of the character's name in The Righteous and the Wicked. Gage. Lionel Gage.
Gage. Okay.
Lionel Gage. So Lionel Gage in The Righteous and the Wicked, or Torch Tenney in Feeding the Masses. Those are probably my top two.
And guys, go check these movies out, man. There's nothing stopping you. So after the show, of course. But go out and check some of Billy's work, guys. Go, let's support this guy. And you've been doing this a long time, sir. Now, do you prefer, because I know you're a filmmaker yourself. We had an interesting lighting thing before the show started. Now, do you prefer being in front of the camera or behind the camera?
It's kind of tough, right? Because like me as an actor, like when I was a little kid, when I was a little boy, there were two people that I wanted to be from my earliest memories, and those two people were Luke Skywalker and Steve Martin.
Nice.
So, and weirdly enough, that like my entire life has been centered around being like this goofy martial arts guy. So,
okay.
So in a weird way, I've kind of become that guy. And so like I was always interested in performing and performance, and I would do little school plays and little skits and things. And so like I did that in the first grade. I was like Joseph in the story of the nativity, and I had like all the lines, and I think I got that because I could memorize the lines and I could project my voice. And like all the parents were like, Jesus, this kid can do his lines and we can hear him. So that was like early encouragement. Then I had this one weird skit when I in the Cub Scouts in front of like this huge audience, and so I had early opportunities to be a theater kid, and then I really kind of leaned into it in high school. And I went to theater for undergrad because when I went to undergrad in New Mexico from like 93 to 98, because I did the 4-year degree in 5 years, like a typical Gen X slacker. It was right before the advent of 3-chip cinema, and so I thought theater was the thing, because like my mind had never wrapped itself around like I remember when I was in like middle school, the idea of getting a pixel cam was really exciting to me, and that was like the first time but I couldn't get one. But that was the first time, like the first time I had an idea that like I'd make movies was around the idea of having a pixel cam. But what was always accessible to me was like the stage and plays and stuff.
Sure.
So when I left undergrad, I was like, I'm going to LA. And so I was like 23 in 1998, and I'm in LA, and I had written this really cool stage play that was really hilarious that everybody loved, Collecting Rooftops, and I've developed it into a screenplay, and I'm hanging out in LA for a year. And my year in LA really informed a lot of why I ended up doing what I do the way I do it. But I ended up taking my script, coming back to New Mexico, being taught about three chip cinema from a filmmaker that I was in a short movie of his, Brad Wolfley, and it's one of the few things I ever did on film. It was a thing called 2000 Shoes or 2000 Suitcases, and I was one of the vignettes in that. And then I went back to him, and he turned me on to three chip cinema in the early 2000s, and then I bought my first camera and made Collecting Rooftops, and then I made Necroville. And then, with the people and skills that I developed doing that, I kind of blossomed into everything else that I did, including meeting Scott, through meeting Scott and Richard and Chris Seaver, and then through all these different and then through Richard and Scott, I met Trent Haga. Through Trent Haga, I ended up meeting Chris Rufty. Yeah, and then just all these people. So it's kind of like just by doing things, I met people that ended up doing other things other places with. And so it just kind of blossomed out from there. So the long answer to the short question is, I originally wanted to be an actor, and then I learned that it's a very disempowering thing to be an actor for a variety of reasons that I'm always happy to go into. But then to be an actor, I became a writer, and then to facilitate being an actor writer, I became a producer director. And along the way, I just learned that I have like a little bit of a facility for production and design and leadership and getting a thing together. And if you go check out some of my directorial stuff, and stuff that I've directed would include Collecting Rooftops, would include Necroville, would include Rot Gut and Stiffed and I Heart You. You can see the evolution of me as a director. And then, what's funny is I have enough of a body of work that if you ask me what's the favorite thing I shot, or what's the best thing I shot, or what's my favorite role, I have a variety of stuff I can draw on to give you an answer to that, which kind of blows my mind. Like, wow, if this body of work that I can talk about, nobody's seen. Yeah,
we got to change that. And it's wild hearing you throw Trent's name around because I'm familiar with him. I'm a big Trauma fan. Have been since I was a kid.
What's crazy about Trent is Trent and I have actually interacted on 4 different movies. He wrote the script for Feeding the Masses. He was in Ski Wolf, and we were in that together. He was in Gimme Skelter. We were in that together. And what the hell's the 4th thing? There was a 4th thing that we did together. It was Psycho Holocaust in Clintonville, wherever the hell Clintonville is. I think it's in the middle of Ohio. It's somewhere in the Midwest. So we did those. And then when he did 68 Kill, he got a screening at the local movie house, and he asked me to go introduce it.
Oh, that's wild.
So I introduced it, say, hey, look, Trent's a friend, and Trent asked me to be here tonight because he couldn't, and, just talk about what it's like to work with Trent, and a little bit about this movie, and to give you guys some giveaways from some of his other movies that I've been participating in. And so he asked me to be, and it was a big honor for me to kind of be his delegate for his screening of his movie in the single screen movie house, the Guild in Albuquerque. So
no, that's wild, and I can't even imagine the interesting people you've met and the connections you've made, and going to LA and that whole thing. It's almost like the stereotypical story. Yeah.
Well, the funny part is, though, the year I lived in LA, I didn't have anything going on. The only stuff I had going on was through a friend I had from high school theater and a friend that I had from college theater. And everything that I did that year in LA was predicated on those 2 relationships. That's how insular and fucked up LA is. I've had more connection and contact with LA leaving LA and making movies than I ever did living in LA. So the funny thing about being an actor as a disempowered position, you're more empowered as a writer because you're doing a thing, and you're even more empowered as a producer director because you're creating the opportunity for the writer and the actor to have things to be. So I'm pretty good with pattern recognition. So I recognized in that year in LA, this is never going to go anywhere.
Yeah.
Not because of me, but because, and this is what I say about LA. Yeah, at least this was LA in the late 90s, is whatever it is you are as an actor, there are no less than 60,000 of that thing in LA at any given time. And they're all slightly something more than you, slightly taller, shorter, better looking, uglier, blonder, muscular, fatter, whatever it is, and slightly more blowing the director than you, whatever it is, and they all,
that's always the way.
And a lot of them are being sponsored, and and their whole life is like just to go to auditions and just live and exist doing that thing. And so what I liken it to is, and this is not a give up on your dreams kind of story. This is a give up on doing it that way story.
Sure.
So what I said is, it's kind of like you're one grain of sand among a bunch of sand in an hourglass, and the hourglass is not turned the right way, and all the sand is wet. You're not getting through that pinhole.
That's a great analogy. Actually, I really like that.
Hollywood loves to tell these stories, like Jim Carrey. Like, I sat on top of the Hollywood Hills, and no offense to Jim Carrey, he's like one of the most.
Yeah, he's a great actor.
That dude's got like just ridiculous amounts of like raw talent, good looks.
Yeah,
just amazing human being. I don't even know the dude, but like just based on the quality and scope of his performance, like from an actor's perspective, it's like, oh shit, I should quit, because if I can't be anywhere even close to this guy, what am I bothering? Right? This guy's like a gold standard. Anyway, the point is, the Hollywood story is, Jim Carrey stood up top the Hollywood Hills and he wrote himself a check for $10 million, post-dated like 15 years. He said, down there's a job for me. It's like, that's a great story about manifestation and believe in yourself and all this other shit. But like, I guarantee you, the other 60,000 whatever Jim Carrey's are like,
jumped off the tallest building you can
I wrote
see.
myself a check for $10 million and it never manifests. It's like, because there's only like a couple hundred people
that actually get to that point,
that make that kind of money. And one of the heartbreaking things about acting is, like, I've seen a lot of talented people, like, just with ungodly amounts of talent, never get anywhere because of the way that system is, or the way that approach works. And then it's just like that. The whole Hollywood dream is it's exactly like Hollywood. It's like there's this shiny facade, and then behind it's like this rotted backlot. And like I always say that, like, that Hollywood fantasy is built on with the bricks and mortar of 1,000, 10,000, 100,000 broken, bloody bodies of broken dreams paves that road. And that's not an indictment. But like it would be easy to say, like, well, you're better because you never got there. I'm like, no. I said, fuck this. And I decided to empower myself, started writing my own shit, started directing my own shit, started producing my own shit. And by doing that, I ended up meeting other people that took me on adventures around the country. And in one case overseas, in one case, the Western got distributed on Lionsgate. Necroville got put out on Netflix.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, like really crazy shit. And I always tell people, and yet that all sounds really impressive. There was no money for me in any of that.
Yeah.
And that's like kind of the crazy thing is, like,
it's almost, do you feel it's more like a trade-off, like the notoriety versus like the paycheck? Because while there can be paychecks, do you think that is an okay trade-off? You know what I mean? That you're not making the millions of dollars, but you're making all these connections and rubbing elbows with all these people and getting at least some kind of distribution deals.
What I would say is this: if you ask 100 people in industry what it is and what it's about, you're going to get 100 different answers.
Sure.
And the question is, who's right? And it's not exactly that anybody's right or wrong. It's more like what happened to them, and how objective or subjective that story is really up for debate.
That's fair. That's very fair.
So, like, I can tell you all kinds of things about how to make a reasonably quality feature-length movie from beginning to end, but I can tell you almost nothing about how to make money doing that. In fact, I can't tell you, and I can tell you how to lose money making movies. I can't tell you anything. I can tell you a little bit about. I can tell you all kinds of things about getting the movie made. I can tell you all kinds of things about getting the movie out there. I can tell you all kinds of things about developing, some fan base and notoriety. But I can't tell you anything about monetization because I haven't figured it out myself.
I think it takes just the right person to see it. I think it's kind of like a crapshoot. You know what I mean? I think it's the roll of the dice as far as like being able to make a lot of money off of something.
Well, so this is the interesting thing then that I've figured out, and this is what I pitch to young people trying to do this.
Please, I'm 46 and I just fucking made my first shit. So I would love, yes, tell me.
Well, right. Well, okay. So if I was going to condense some of my wisdom into like a couple of, bite-sized sound points, item one that I would say is there. I can't tell you who said it, but it's some apocryphal tale of some guy in Hollywood said this at some point. You can't make a living, but you can make a fortune, which is a funny way of saying it's like lightning striking. When lightning strikes, man, lightning is struck. But like there's a greater chance of there being no money than anything, right? Like one story that I tell is Richard Lynch. Now, who's Richard Lynch? Richard Lynch used to be a A-list actor back in the 70s. He was alongside Gene Hackman, Al Pacino, did all kinds of crazy stuff back in the day. If you're a Star Trek Next Generation nerd, are you a Star Trek Next Generation nerd?
My brother is, who is watching, so I'm sure he.
Gambit, part 1 and 2, where Picard is on this weird mercenary ship and they're stealing artifacts. The main bad guy is played by Richard Lynch. Now, what happened to Richard Lynch is he was doing a bunch of acid at some point in the 70s, 80s, something like that. He doused himself in gasoline and self-immolated. I used to say he self-immolated, and I once had this like bitch tell me like, I don't think you know what that means. I'm like, really? What do you think it means? It means he set himself on fire. I'm like, yeah, that's what he fucking did. And she like got horrified because it was an example of what that word means. And so his flesh was burned. And so he ended up doing a lot of horror movies and stuff and makeup. Very gifted actor, but it basically ended and ruined his A-list career, like somewhere back there. And so how do I know this guy? Is he ended up doing a small bit in a movie called Wedding Slashers with us in 2004, I think. October 2004-ish, give or take.
Love that title.
Might have been 6 actually. No, I think Wedding Slashers was 2006. The point is like this guy was an A-list celebrity, keeping pace with like Gene Hackman and Al Pacino back in the day. But here he is in the twilight of his life, rolling around on a dirt floor in a backwoods Hantavirus Hilton in New Mexico for like $2-3 grand. Because that's what he can get, and he can't pay his bills, and there's something fucked up going on with his kids, and he ended up dying alone and broke. And that's an actor. That's a guy who was an A-list actor at some point, And I say Richard Lynch today, and you're like, who? Yeah, I guess my brother does Star Trek, and that's no offense to you.
But, no, not at all. I'm not familiar. I'm going to have to go back and look now, especially with such like a tragic tale.
But again, it's not an indictment on you or your
no,
or your cinema knowledge. Like I go back. It's one of the most humbling experiences for me as a filmmaker is to go back and watch these like crazy old black and white movies from the 40s, 50s, 60s, and there's these great movies, like really well made with great acting, and some of the film and some of the techniques a little bit more rudimentary, but it's like really, really good. And I'm like, fuck, I don't know this movie. I haven't heard of this movie. I haven't seen these. I don't know these people. I don't know these directors. Who the fuck are these people doing this great shit? And like what all of this hard work that you take doing years and years and years, it just ends up being a DVD or a VHS, an unwatched DVD or VHS on the shelf. And that's an actor's destiny, man. Like, I'll never forget the first time I met a millennial that said, I never saw Star Wars. And, at some point the Gen Zers are going to be like 40 or 50 and they're picking what the fuck is Harry Potter? And that's the destiny of most pop culture, of most art. It's relegated to the dustbin. And that's kind of like a weird, it's like I've got my memento mori here, right? You're remembering death. It's all for shit, man. We're all dead. We're already dead, man.
We're already dead. I would kind of argue the point. Like if you take a look at cult movies specifically, if you look at like a lot of the older, horror, because I'm a huge horror guy. That is my wheelhouse, is horror. If you look at a lot of the movies from the 60s, 70s, and 80s that still have a huge following, not just with like our generation, but with like younger kids too. It's like, I would kind of argue that while, you might not, because I guarantee there's people that do conventions and stuff that like had no idea when they made these movies that they would ever be this popular. You know what I mean? And I think that while a majority of that is true, that people are just, going to end up in the $5 bin at Walmart, or just, an antiquated Blu-ray or DVD on somebody's shelf or VHS. that's not to say that there's not promise there for that movie, as long as like I think the right crew or crowd rather finds it.
No, and don't get me wrong. Like, and I just want to say hi, Chantel, and to
Oh, hi,
random
babe.
to random nonsense. I would love to watch your movie. Is random nonsense your buddy that?
Yeah, that's JJ. Yeah, but the movie's only available to watch until 8:00.
If you and I sit down for movies, if you and I sit down for dinner over the holidays, if we figure it out, and I think we can, I'll tell you what. You show me yours, I'll show you one of mine, and we'll compare notes.
Ooh, I love it. I love it.
We'll have a good time. Then
we're talking about movies right now. Wieners.
It'll literally be on my way to go hang out with Chris Seaver for a few days.
That would be awesome. I would love. Well, when you do, please give him a big hug for us because we're big Seaver fans. And the funniest thing I like to say about Seaver is he, again, sweetest guy in the world. Very, very. You can talk to him very easily. I always feel like I'm bothering the guy, and it's funny. And he has told me repeatedly, I'm just very I get in my head sometimes. And he's like, no. He's like, if I didn't want to talk to you, I wouldn't. I'm like, okay, that's fair. But it just seems that whenever I reach out to him, it's at an inconvenient time.
Well, it might be,
and it might be, but he's never. It's never that way, and he's always good to it. It's just one of my little insecurities and stuff like that.
For whatever it's worth, Chris is a very sweet, very righteous, very genuine dude.
Yes, he is.
If he's taking your call, you're in good shape.
Yeah.
So, but to your point of what you're talking about a minute ago, it's like, yeah, I mean, any movie can find its audience. And so it's like, for all of the stuff that I've done, it's like hilarious to me that like the one they'll probably remember me for is Blood Fart Lake. That's hilarious.
Seaver says the same thing, to be fair.
But by the same token, like, some actors are like embarrassed to be a part of something like that. But I think it's like an honor and privilege. Like I was like an MC of the Rocky Horror Picture Show for decades, and like
I used to play riffraff back in the days in Louisiana.
There you go. But so like to me, that like people have found this kitschy, goofy thing, and like apparently, I guess across the country, people in bars watch it and get drunk and have a good old time. They chant and they cheer, and when Nicola Fiore takes her dump and dumps out the fucking
oh, come on,
it's like it's not my best work as an actor, and it is not the best work it's not even Chris Seaver's best work as a filmmaker, but like there's a fan base, and that's to be cherished and that's to be honored. And I think you're right. It's like a movie can find its audience. Birdemic found its audience.
Birdemic sure did. Holy moly. Wow. Yeah. James Nguyen.
Yeah. And because of Birdemic, we ended up putting Whitney Moore in our movie Rock Gut.
She was in Rock Gut?
Yeah, she was.
How was she to work with? I got to ask.
She was a gem.
Oh, that's so cool.
Like she was one of the few actors we were paying. It was a $9,000 movie. And so she was one of the budget items. It's like, we're going to pay Whitney Moore. We're going to fly her out, accommodate her, and put her up. And when she found out that she was like getting paid and other people weren't, she refused to get paid. That's how classy she is.
That's amazing.
I now I've talked to Whitney in years. She's done many things since then, but she was talented, a sweetheart to work with. And she was, when she found out that we were on a budget and that we weren't trying to fuck her out of money, and she found out like everybody else was basically local and working for free, she refused her budget and put it back into the movie.
That's amazing.
Just to have parity with her. That's my experience with Whitney Moore.
That's amazing. I love hearing stories like that. One of the oldest adages is, you never meet your heroes. You know what I mean? But I've found in doing this, I think that's one of the first things you and I talked about when we first spoke, is that, we were having a conversation beforehand. You know what I mean? And I kind of like to get to know the guest before, you know what I mean? And just, even if, shoot for the moon, dude, the worst they're going to say is no. You know what I mean? And everybody that I've done that to, whether it be Ben Scrivens or, yourself, Chris Seaver, oh my God, I'm blanking on his name now. He's like a super famous, Rick McCollum, who has been in all 3 Hatchet movies. I have all my Victor Crowley and Hatchet shit was signed by Rick because he's an
To
amazing
be fair,
guy.
I've only gotten through the first 3.
That's fair. He's if you guys don't know, he's the guy that gets vivisected and his nuts hung to a tree and hatchet too. But the guy he's been in so many movies. He did Hollywood Ghost Hunters with Kane Hodder and R.A. Mihailoff, who I'm apparently not allowed to say his real name. Just because, ironically, a friend of my brother's was like friends with R.A. Mihailoff, who played Leatherface in Texas Chainsaw 3, the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3. And the first time I met Rick, I kept referring to R.A. by his real name. And he was like, "Oh, you mean R.A.?" And I'm like, Gotcha, buddy. But everybody has been so nice. And I found that in more cases that when you meet your heroes or people that you respect and in an industry and stuff like that, 9 times out of 10, they're going to be great people, dude. You know what I mean? And that's, and Whitney Moore, it's one of those things where, I hear you talk about Trent and Whitney and Debbie. I don't know if you've ever worked with Debbie Rashawn before.
Yeah, I met Debbie on this. I've worked with her at least once on the set of Teenage versus the Mutant Nazi Apocalypse, and she's just a sweetheart.
And that's the whole thing, man. I love hearing stories like that. Like, you hear so many tales about, like, oh, this guy, was a fucking prick, or, whatever, just was very into themselves and, like, couldn't care less, rather. It's nice to see that there's real people out there. And I think, honestly, independent cinema, the way Hollywood is these days, let's be honest, man, like, it's a joke. Hollywood is a joke these days. I mean, there's nothing really unique being pushed out. I think independent cinema is like where it's going. I think you get a lot more people. Like, the movies might not be as polished, but every single one is somebody's baby to some degree.
And I know we're getting close to the end of the hour, but like, that kind of ties back into one of the things I was going to talk about, right? Which is like this Hollywood dream, and it's like, dream big, shoot high. But what life has taught me, and this is the unfortunate thing that most actors that I know have committed decades of their life to trying to do it and not being anywhere. What I've learned is, hello, JJ.
What's up, JJ?
What's up, guys?
What I've learned is, art is the dessert of life, not the meat. And so it's like, you gotta have a pot to piss in and a window to throw it out of and live some life, and then have a platform from which you're making your art. And so, I think that's like really important. And I think a lot of people are in it for the wrong reasons, which is they're trying to get rich and famous. But like, where I've always come from, at least this is what I try to do, and I get moods and I stamp around and I get pissed on a set if I'm directing or producing.
Yeah, but you're human. You know what I mean?
Well, I appreciate that. Yeah. Like I say, opinions and results vary. But what I do say is, like, at the end of the day, as an actor, your job is to serve. You're there to serve the audience. You're there to serve the set. You're there to serve the crew. You're there to serve the director. You're there to serve the story. And so, like, if you're there and you're asking, and this always drives me nuts, if it's day one and you're asking when's the after party, you're in the wrong place.
Yeah, you're in the wrong place. Yeah.
If you're worried about your residuals or how this is going to make your career look, or you don't want to be typecast.
You're in it for the wrong reasons.
I think you don't realize how rare and precious the opportunities to do this stuff are.
That's 100% right. And again, I'm a newbie on all this. I shot my first fucking movie. We shot our first movie like 4 months ago.
Yeah.
And it was the best time of our lives. It was, it was Arkansas in the at the end of
middle
June.
of summer.
So, and they're all exterior shoots, like with the extent.
It must have been hot and sticky and miserable.
Bro,
as a baseline given day.
There was 18, 23, 24-hour day shoots, man. And we got it done in 4.5 days. And, but it was that kind of thing on the set, man, where like we were all tired and we were hot and stuff, but nobody ever complained. And we were all nobody was thinking, like, if anything, I think we were overshooting it. We're like, we can't wait for this movie to get fucking huge and stuff like that. But I mean, it's believing in it. You know what I mean? As opposed
and there's nothing wrong with that.
No. And again, there's nothing wrong with aiming high, aiming big, shooting for the moon. But I guess what I'm saying is don't don't base your future on this is going to come.
Yeah.
In.
Oh no, absolutely not. I mean, so the way I look at it is, it's cool to have done this, but I have a job that pays my bills. So anything in between, like if I make money off the movie, cool. If not, I never expected to. So it's no big deal. Just the fact that like it's out there and people can see this.
But the real trick is, and I wish I'd known this earlier in my career, such as it's been. There's definitely an element to this, but I wish I'd more fully embraced this earlier in my life, which is it's got to be for the love of the game first and foremost, and then what results from that labor of love will be what it is.
Yeah.
Whether the movie completely fails or flies or falls apart or is completely mediocre, it's got to be from the heart. It's got to be a labor of love, or what's the point?
That's our 100%. That's how we feel, and that's kind of like how we went down shooting this thing, man. We were all in it for,
Well, it's like we both said, like we would do this for free every time that they ask us to do it. Like it's never been about the money; it's about what we get to do. It's gonna chase a dream that we never thought we'd get.
JJ, you got to be careful what you say around like an inveterate filmmaker like me, because you may be consigning yourself to production hell on my set one day with words like that. I'm like, oh, cool, come hang out in Mexico for a couple weeks.
You don't have to tell me more. I'm in.
Tui says, "Gotta bounce, everyone. Great show, Empty. Thank you so much for giving your time, Hambone. Hambone.
Rob Wood, a good man.
Yeah, there we go. Thank you so much, man. And Billy, would you be willing to come back on the show again at some point? I would love to have you back on.
I feel like we barely scratched the surface. There's too much to talk about.
I do too. So I would love to reach. I know you got a busy night tonight. How about this? Why don't we get in contact with each other this week and try to plan something in the very foreseeable future where we can all get together and talk some more.
Well, I'll do you one better. To begin with, it was a huge honor for you to reach out.
Stop.
I'd be worth some of your time. No, I'm serious, man. Like, no bullshit. Like, it's really an honor that you would think that me or some of what I've done is worth some of your time. So thank you for that.
Of course.
If I'm threatening to drive through, get some dinner, and watch some movies, why don't we do an in-studio thing?
I would. Don't look.
That would be cool.
Like, don't tickle my balls.
That would be cool as shit.
Yeah, both hands. I want to thank. So, guys, we're out of time. I want to thank Billy Garberina so much for everything. We're gonna get back with this guy soon. We love him. You are always welcome here anytime you want to come on, brother. And we got to work on something very soon. JJ, shout outs. Thanks for the look at the office at my new job.
You're welcome.
I'm actually going to work for JJ. That's who I'm going to work for. But guys, go out there and do good things because nobody else is going to. If everybody did one good thing for somebody else each day, this world would not be such a bad place. I love you guys very much for watching. Thank you, and we'll catch you next time on Hef TV.
Have a good journey, everybody.
Later. Oh, no.
He forgot to hit the button.
Yeah.